Thanks for joining me today. Now we all know what chords are, but what exactly are they and how do we make them? Before we proceed any further, I would recommend that you watch or review some of my other videos. Two in particular that are worth seeing are an introduction to musical intervals and musical intervals part 2. You might also get some benefit out of the one that's titled The Difference Between Major and Minor.
So here we see two definitions of the term chord. The first one is from the Pocket Manual of Musical Terms. It tells us that a chord is a harmony of 2 or more tones, or it is a harmony of from 3 to 5 tones forming an ascending series of diatonic thirds. Okay. The other definition from the Harvard Brief Dictionary of Music tells us that a chord is the simultaneous sounding of 3 or more tones. Now, each definition kind of has its place. The first definition can include a chord of 2 or more tones. On the other hand, it does not allow for what we might consider to be a discord or a tone cluster. The second definition, it doesn't say it here, but the source does go on to say that if you have only 2 tones sounding, then they refer to that only as an interval. On the other hand, the second one also allows for again what we might consider to be a discord or just a tone cluster.
So here we are with the piano, and let's look at some random chords. Simple chords, say C major. Sorry. Here's a D major 7. Okay, an F minor chord. Sorry. And they all sound fine. Now, if you go back to our definitions, you may recall the difference between 2 versus 3 or more tones sounded together. So if I sound just 2 notes together like so, according to one definition, that would be a chord. According to another definition, it's merely an interval. Okay, pick your poison, if you will. On the other hand, chords, as they get more and more modern, if you will, they get more and more discordant until we can end up with a group of notes that may sound really quite discordant, like so. Sometimes we call this a tone cluster. And according to one of our definitions, this would be a chord. And according to the other definition, since it's not made up of thirds, it's not a chord. Again, pick your poison. So let's start with the simplest chords, which are major and minor triads. Each of those is constructed with a major third and a minor third in a particular pattern. Okay, let's start with some simple chords. Now, C major is a convenient key in which to demonstrate how this occurs. In order to make a simple major triad in C major, we start, of course, with C, which is the root. We go up a major third, which is the third note of the scale, of course, and then we go up another minor third from there, which brings us to the 5th note of the scale, and we have a C major triad. Very simple. For a C minor triad, we again start with C. We'll go up this time a minor third, and now we go up a major third, and we have a C minor triad. A simple way to remember the difference is that in a major triad you have a major third on the bottom and a minor third on top. In a minor triad it is the other way around. You have a minor third on the bottom and a major third on the top. We can do the same thing if we wish in, say, E flat major. We start with our tonic of E flat, we go up a major third, and then another minor third, and we have an E flat major triad. Excuse me. If we start on E flat and go up a minor third, and then another major third, then we'll have an E flat minor triad. Now, in addition to these simple triads, these simple 3-tone chords, we can sometimes add more. we might end up with a 6 chord or a 7 chord. In these cases, we're adding the 6th note of the scale to the original triad, or we might add the 7th note of the scale to the triad. In those two cases, they're called a 6 chord or a 7 chord. We can sometimes even go beyond the octave and have an 11 chord or a 13 chord. Now, I just mentioned things like 6 chords, 7 chords, and 11 chords. Let's show how this works in C major. So we start with, say, a C major triad. And now if we add the 6th note of the scale, we have a C6 chord. It has a particularly interesting sound. It's a little bit more modern, a little bit more jazzy. It also reminds me of cowboy music. Okay, it definitely has its place in the world of harmony. How about a 7 chord? Let's start again with our triad. Now what we call just a normal 7 chord is actually, we're adding a minor 7 to the chord. Okay, and that gives us what we call a C7 chord. If we were to actually do the major 7th of the scale, then we specifically call that a C major 7 chord. We can do, of course, the same thing in another key. Let's try F major. Here's F, an F6 chord, an F7 chord, an F major 7 chord. If we want to get really fancy, let's try, say, a C11 chord. All right, so here's our triad. Our octave is here, so 8, 9, 10, 11. Various forms of a C11 chord. Other modifications we can make to the triads that we have already seen. We can make what we call diminished chords or augmented chords. So I just mentioned diminished and augmented triads or chords. Let's go back to C major. C major. Now, a diminished chord, we first go from the major chord to the minor chord, and now we diminish or shrink, if you prefer, the top interval. We now have a C diminished chord. Notice that this is made up of a minor third plus another minor third. C diminished. If we wanted to do the same thing with C, say B flat, here's B flat major, B flat minor, and then B flat diminished. We can go the other way and we can make an augmented chord. Start again with C major. All we do here is, instead of having a minor third on the top, we turn this interval into a major third. And we have a C augmented chord. How about G for our other example? Here's our G major chord and G augmented. Now there are even more. It can get pretty complicated, but what we have here should be enough to kind of get us started. If you have any questions or comments, please either leave a question or comment on this video, on this site. If you prefer, you can reach me at my website, which is indicated below. Thanks again for joining me today, and I hope to see you again next time.